camera. Challenges here to try to test your stamina. Gain up for amateurs as we proceed. We go hard in the paint like the room we bleed. MAC, go deep and going wild with C. 93.3 every week. Cover every piece, down to every D. Athletes on the show just to share their piece. Style Marauders, now we'll come harder. Mondays at 9 a.m. The game started. The game started up in CFMU. Tune in now to see what we do. In the end zone, no. Stats, recaps, and interviews on the show. Coming straight from the 905. Our time, your march. Let's do this right, you're live.
Welcome inside Marauder Radio, everyone. It is your host, Marshall Ferguson. It is December 8th as we are crawling ever closer to Christmas. I'm joined in studio, as always, when I like to have men. I want to say it was always, but sometimes exams pop up. You never know what Scott Hasey's going to be doing. He's a busy man, so I'm glad to have Scott in the studio. Scott, what do you want for Christmas? I might as well turn your mic on so you can tell me what you want for Christmas.
Jeez, man. Blindsided me with this one.
I know. I try to do that off the top of the show every week.
Probably the number one pick in my fantasy football draft. Considering I lost by so little, I want to win the consolation round.
That makes sense.
My life.
I talked to a couple of guys yesterday while I was working that were in their leagues. The one guy had just taken every receiver from Denver. He just thought that was a good idea. He's like, there's no way I can go wrong. And he was a Cowboys fan. So, like, sometimes people, I know when I played 1 year of fantasy when I drafted and then never updated because I just didn't care, and I ended up selling Fred Jackson at the end of the season to somebody who made the playoffs. I used to just take Edelman, Welker, Gronkowski, Brady. Yeah. Just because, A, they were really good, and B, there's something about fantasy football that makes me very indifferent to cheering against someone that you love watching play for your fantasy points. There was actually a story on NFL Countdown yesterday, I don't know if you were watching, about the ups and downs of fantasy and the way that fans can be very abusive on Twitter and otherwise by reaching out to players.
Yeah, I could see that, but no, I'm not gonna hop on the tweet machine and fire it off someone. If someone gets like 3 points, it's called sports.
Yep, and I actually was reminded of that story this morning when I was watching ESPN Sports Center, and they showed Jamal Charles like crawling off the field with whatever happened to him yesterday. To his ankle, or I'm not sure. I didn't watch that game because I have zero interest in the Chiefs or the Cardinals, but in the story on NFL Countdown, they had him in the story talking about when he tore his ACL, how he got like death threats because he was the number 1 overall pick in so many people's draft leagues. And it was like, it's scary how many people, they had Brandon Jacobs in that story as well, former running back for the New York Giants.
Oh yeah.
And he said that he straight up confronted a dude on Twitter and then reported the guy to NFL security, and NFL security reached out to local authorities, and they contacted the man and basically put like a watch on him and took away his Twitter account. Like they took away his like free speech of Twitter account because Brandon Jacobs was that worried about. I don't know how that's legally viable.
Yeah, like you couldn't do that to every dude.
No. Like if I was gonna have my Twitter account taken away, it'd be long gone by now. For sure.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'm not abusive at all.
I'm not abusive. I'm just dumb.
Yeah, no, we say a lot of stupid stuff. You and I both live the dangerous edge on Twitter where every time you type something, we edit it in our head 6 times and then we type it and then we go,
yeah,
I don't know.
And the delete button's pretty quick. I usually don't delete too much, but, I don't know. Some people don't like a guy or a person that would say something like, I don't like this. There's problems with this. And they're like, just get over it.
Know what I find terrible that I do all the time is, I'll think of something. I'll take about 2-3 minutes to type it up. I'll make it inside 140 characters. I'll look at it. I'll go, that's good. And then I would wait, think about it again and go, oh man, that's really not worth it.
Like you think you get in trouble?
Well, not so much in trouble, but I'm just like, am I going to just piss off people, or am I going to just bore people to the fact where they're like, shut up? Because I find the tweets that make people say, what the hell is this guy doing? Shut up, worse than the ones that make people angry. Like the Darren Rovell ones that are like, oh, there's Under Armour on Vernon Golston's shoes. They're with Nike. It's like, I don't care. I don't know who does care. And I find those more annoying. But we could go on Twitter for days and days and days. I want to mention off the top of the show, Marauder Radio is brought to you by the home of the original Buffalo Wing and Hump Day Wednesday Anchor Bar, located in downtown Hamilton at Jackson Square. I came back to work this morning. This is the first time I've stepped into CFMU since the Vanier. I think anybody listening can understand it was a pretty busy weekend time. I took my sweet time coming back to Hamilton after the Vanier Cup. I was bombarded in my email this morning by all sorts of stuff. There was Don Cherry is releasing Rock'em Sock'em 26.
Good.
I had I don't know if you got those emails over at the Silhouette, but I had 4 emails trying to get me to buy the Don Cherry DVDs.
No.
All right.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
Sorry,
well,
man.
anyways, I had that. I also had the Burlington Synchronized Swimming Club invite me to their chili cook-off, which I'm certain was a lovely event. I didn't actually go because I didn't get the email. I would have been there, Burlington Synchronized Swimming Association, because I do love me some chili, especially after Bills games on a cold afternoon. But the other thing that I had, the notification of change in location for Montreal's practice.
Ooh.
As I opened my email this morning. And something that Neat Sager is calling snow, what do you call it? Montreal Snowgate? Montreal Snowjob, whatever he called in that article.
Yeah, Snowjob. Yeah, Snowjob is what he's going
Sounds dirty to me, but that's a whole other story. It kind of brought back a flood of, I don't want to say emotions, memories kind of thing, but I separated myself from the Vanier after that week of just hanging out with family and friends and getting back to work and all these kind of things. And then I opened my email this morning and was like,
you thought you forgot.
And it was like, oh, by the way, Montreal changed their location of their practice because there's snow on the field. And I was just like, it brought back so many things that were frustrating through the week. And honestly, in the moment, I didn't really care that much. And I'm not a sore loser. I don't care. I don't think walkthroughs mean anything. But I wanted to walk down the road with you, Scott, of the Vanier week because I feel like it's the last time I'll probably ever discuss a sporting event that I played in, and it's really easy content, so why not go down that road?
Yeah, okay.
Because that's what the show is lived on. I think we've interviewed 2 athletes, and the rest of the show has been me talking about my experiences in football. So, last chance to do it. Why not exploit it? The atmosphere. Your thoughts?
In game?
Yes.
Yeah, in game, I thought it was probably good. Our press box was a little bit cut off from all the noise.
Okay. What side of the stadium were you on of the press box? The benches side?
Mountain side. Yeah, the opposite side of that.
Opposite side of the benches. So you were looking down across the field at us.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So that makes sense.
So the atmosphere seemed good, but I think really just because the game was so back and forth for the start, but back and forth in that there was trading possessions and one team was putting up points and the other wasn't. The first half they were just taken out of it, really. The fans kind of lost interest. I mean, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours of football that nothing really happened outside of Wayne's big run.
Yeah.
So the crowd was really tepid, but then as soon as we came out of half, and then, there was a fumble on the kick return, that was it. That was a switch flick back on for all of them. And people I talked to said the same thing. They said the fumble just reignited every person in there, and the fans got rowdy and abusive towards anyone wearing maroon.
Yeah, I think anyone who, you could survey 32 fans of 32 NFL teams, and you would say, when you're drunk at a game, at a home game, and the away team fumbles the opening kickoff, does that get you excited? And 32 of 32, it fires up places right away. No blame on anyone. I mean, Melzi was just trying to make a play, and he made 4 guys miss to get upfield at that point, right? Mm-hmm. So as I'm watching him cut upfield, I'm like, yeah. Oh man, we got great field position. It was like, oh, all right, that happens, but that's part of the game. The other thing I wanted to mention, first of all, I thought the atmosphere was incredible. I know Jim Olin from Crunk Downtown U talked about the fact that it wasn't even a sellout, even though it was in the home team city and all of those kind of things, and the fan base was close for McMaster and all that. The actual number of a sellout doesn't matter in CIS sports, I think. If the environment feels like a sellout, that means much more to the athletes that play in the game, because, you could see spots in the upper corners that were empty. Whoop-de-doo. I don't care, right? It's still the loudest game I've played in. I think that game was louder.
At a certain point, you need to say, it doesn't matter if we have more people in here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 20,000 in that stadium, and it doesn't matter if you have 23 or 20.
Exactly. There's people that are saying that it's, well, a sellout is a sellout. Okay, well, a sellout is a standard that is great and all of that, but if you go to an NFL game, people will say there's a sellout, and then you look in individual sections, there'll be 20 seats missing, there'll be 10 seats missing in a row because the season ticket holder couldn't make it. There'll be, like, those things don't matter. That's just a term that we use to define how successful we are at creating a large event, but the actual number and the actual atmosphere in Montreal was incredible. Understandably so, because the home team was in it.
And I have a problem with saying that this is relatively close. Montreal is not relatively close to Hamilton. Not if you're a student. Like,
I think
that's kind of insulting to students because it's like, oh, you didn't want to go. It's so close.
Oh, you're that guy?
6-hour drive. It's a 6-hour drive, and exams were the next week.
Yeah.
Like, which is my own beef, but don't act like football is at the top of mind for students at the end of November.
Yeah, I think we have just reached the conclusion that we need to move football season into July, August, September, Vanier Cup, Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
Always
spooky Vanier.
Always in Ontario. That's the other. Concordia, we practice there. How are they not a national power? I'm not educated enough to know the answer to this, but their facility was amazing. If we had a bubble dome at McMaster, like Concordia had, that was a full-size Canadian field, we would be significantly more productive during the winter. I feel very comfortable in saying that. Like, I go to Soccer World on Fritz Street, sometimes with some CFL guys, some Canadian CFL guys that are around and need an arm. I've gone and thrown with them before, and it's been a lot of fun, but like, that place we get for free, and it doesn't have the heat on in the winter through the night because they're trying to save money. So they only heat it during the day and they let it go cold during the night. So we show up at like 7 a.m. to throw because it's free then. And if it's negative 20 outside, it's negative 15 inside the dome, and it doesn't really heat up while we throw. So we're doing stuff in full sweats, but this dome at Concordia was amazing. And also their football field's a pretty cool setting. It's kind of like if Hamilton Hall was across the street from your field with nothing obstructing the view of it, which was really cool.
I saw some interviews with their coach and some of their players earlier in the year, and it seemed like I couldn't tell if that was like a practice field or their real field.
Yeah.
But no, that makes sense.
I didn't actually step on the outdoor turf. I'm not sure the quality of it, but the actual environment at Concordia and the inside bubble dome and whatnot, I was very impressed with. So that was confusing to me why they are not, I don't know. I don't want to call it their program or anything, but I just thought they have the setup like so much.
I wonder how much of that is because of the competition they have.
Yeah, so
like
much.
If they played in Ontario, where would they fall?
True.
Type thing.
True.
We don't know, but
well, we might know with cross country matchups coming. We'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, I know. But I wondered because so much in CIS sport we talk about the lack of funding and the lack of the situation to be successful and all of that. And judging by their facilities, they are put in a pretty good situation comparative to some other schools. So I thought about that. The Vanier Cup, obviously, we lost 2019. I believe was a score. I did that off the top of my head. Was that right? 2019?
Yeah.
All right, good. A field goal was blocked in the final minute. Anybody who watched the game on Sportsnet 360 knows that. Tim McAuliffe, who we had on this show not long ago, was awesome on the call. I've yet to actually watch his full version. But the week that was, from my perspective a little bit, in one word, hostile. And you were in Montreal long enough to know. You can expect that, but there was a couple of moments that will stick out to me that I mentioned to you coming off the field one day. One, driving back from practice at Concordia at that wonderful bubble dome, getting flipped off by every third person that we saw. People that necessarily don't even have an affiliation with the University of Montreal, because we were very close to Concordia's campus. And we were just getting flipped off everywhere, and we're driving back in the bus, and we're like, where are we? What is going on? It was very, very hostile. Not to say that it wasn't expected, but I thought that was worth pointing out. The other one was going into a restaurant, which had the most televisions I've ever been around, by the way. It made Boston Pizza look like Chuck E. Cheese.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a pretty crazy setup. You could not look 6 inches without seeing a 42-inch flat screen, and it was through the entire dining room. It was like wallpaper of TVs. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it. It was disorienting though, because you had no idea where to watch the Cowboys-Eagles game on, because your eyes would, when you have too many things in front of your face that are all the same thing, and you flicker from one TV to the next to watch all of the same play. It was like that. Very weird. Anyways, we went into that restaurant, and a guy yelled at us, "Hey boys, long way to drive to get a loss. Hey, F you, see you on Saturday, bud." I'm like, okay, we'll see you then.
Yeah. It's like, all right, man. Are you done?
Yeah. Like, there was guys that were walking through that were like, "Oh, do you play? So we'll see you on Saturday." Like, you're dressing? Okay, then shut up.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to do with, like, and I understand it's just a fan being a fan, but I've never understood fandom. I understand negative fandom because it happens all the time.
I understand fandom within the confines of your own team, like being a fan of your team, but going out of your way to be like, "Hey man, this is what I think about you, rival team."
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, you're just insulting someone. Like,
I got a pretty good laugh out of Max Cameron, our great receiver, who had a pretty big afternoon. We left the restaurant together and those guys were still sitting there, and I said, "Yo, let's walk by, let's see if this guy says something again." We walk by and he's just sitting there with his 3 or 4 buddies again. He doesn't say anything, and Max goes to me, he goes, "Yeah, he probably was," it would have been funny if he came up to us, he's just like, "I'm sorry guys, I was kind of buzzed when you walked in, and now I'm okay, but I was kind of feeling it there for a couple minutes, and you guys walked in right when I was, I just finished my first schooner." So I thought that was funny, but it was a hostile environment. The Vanier Cup in Quebec in 2 straight seasons. I understand the significance of the 50th being in Montreal, and obviously Laval has earned every right to host as many Vanier Cups as they want because they have one of, if not the greatest environments in Canadian university football. I'm looking forward to it hopefully not being in Quebec next year.
All signs are pointing to Ottawa. Like, most people are talking about Ottawa as if it's a foregone conclusion. Yeah,
it's new, it's shiny, it works. I'm very jealous of whoever gets to play in that Ottawa stadium. I really hoped that, for some reason, when they were building that, I hoped that we would either play Carleton or Ottawa, whoever we traveled to Ottawa to play in that stadium, because it is beautiful from all accounts that I've heard. But or even Tim Hortons Field, I'm sure that's going to get a look down the road.
Yeah,
at either
people are asking me a lot. They were like, "Oh, Tim Hortons Field will host Vanier." I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not inside the organizer's brains. I don't know if Mac or whoever wants to bid on it. It's expensive.
Yes, it is. And you talk about best kind of football environments across this country. Again, I mentioned Jim Mullen earlier. National cross-conference matchups. Here's what he had to say about the possibility of that, and Scott and I will comment in just a second after I play this clip for you.
Interlocking games, lots of talk about it in terms of grouping a number of teams together, hopefully with maybe some sort of push towards television. Let's put some action to this talk. That's the one thing that's missing from the CIS right now is action with all the talk. If you want to sit around and wait for a football summit sometime in the middle of summer, you're going to lose another opportunity. Get on it now.
My question is, and I love the idea of, Montreal playing Regina and us playing Calgary and Laval playing Manitoba, and you get one game with the West, one with the East, say. Some teams from the West get to play the AUS or something like that. But if we can't figure out how to properly host the one big national game, how can we be expected to create a viable situation to host several?
Manitoba coming to McMaster is not significant. Manitoba coming to Mount Allison is not significant. I understand where they're coming from because you attract a bigger audience, but there is no way from an attendance standpoint, which does matter,
yes,
that you bringing UBC to MAC is going to do anything for your average student. Homecoming against who? At least if we play these things, we considered going to those schools as students, or we know people who went there. Like, if you play Waterloo, McMaster knows that Waterloo is not good at football.
Yes.
But they at least know who Waterloo is. They know the stories, they know the personalities, whatever. So, I mean, for him to say that the one thing the CIS is lacking is conversation or action, I mean, there's more than one thing. But I don't think this is a solution, and I haven't thought it for a long time. It's expensive.
Yeah, and it's so expensive that, and our athletic department is doing well and they treat us incredibly well, but we took one bus, for whatever it was, 50 some athletes up to Montreal and back. That was a decision that we made as a team in order to stay for an extra night. But, in no way does this conversation compare to an NCAA situation. And in the NCAA, the big ticket is when you put LSU and Oregon in Cowboy Stadium in week 1 for the Chick-fil-A kickoff, and you play in front of 80 to 100,000 people, and there's vendors and revenue and blah, 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 and all that goes with that. We are not LSU. We don't have the same fan base. We don't have the same draw, regardless of how well the program has done in 3 of the last 4 years getting to the national championship. If we were an NCAA program that had made it to 3 of 4, it would be Bama, right? That's the standard of excellence, as you get there consistently, and you're a great team always, and you're always a relevant part of the conversation. But you're right. I love the idea of it. It's beautiful to think of.
But we're in it.
Yeah. I understand it as a team that just played in a national semifinal with people there. Enough.
3,800, yeah.
Yeah. But you put 3,800 in our stadium, it's great. You put 3,800 in Tim Hortons Field for any game against Manitoba, insert school here, it looks awful.
And the schools wouldn't want that. They would want to have the things on campus.
And what does it really change about the national conversation of strength of school when you're only playing one team outside of your conference? Like, what has that done for Quebec and the AUS doing interlocking play? What has that changed about the strength of those conversations?
Nothing. It's still so top heavy, yeah.
Yeah, that's a minor sample of what the conversation would be, because Ontario and the West have so much to add to that conversation. But in my opinion, that is a reflection of the conversation we might be having if this were to go through. And I think it should happen at some point, but it's just not ready to happen.
Well, and I mean, we don't know the workings behind the scenes or anything, which is fine. But what I'm going off of it is what Jim sounds like he's saying is that this is something that needs to get discussed now and implemented in a season or 2.
Yes.
That's a lot. That is quite an investment for not a known product quantity. Like, we have no clue. Honestly, if we played Regina, no one's coming to that game.
Well, Asher Hastings' whole family is coming to that game. I'll tell you that much. They're boarding the plane with him.
I'm sorry, Asher. Yes, that's true.
Hey, listen, we're trying to recruit out of the West, okay? So if you're trying to kill that dream...
I'll kill someone I'll just kill Toba again. They're not too far west.
All right. But if we could have the University of Kenora in, that would be ideal.
Well, it's going to be a toss-up, right? Because it would be you play a team from a different conference or you play another OUA team, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's...
The idea is that Ontario would play one from the West, one from Quebec, and that the team from the West would play one from Quebec and one from Ontario, and you would get one away and one home against each. I know that because I talked to Jim Mullen in the hotel in Montreal. I asked him, how he was doing. I just introduced myself to him because I've never talked to him in person before, and he said, I'm here on business. I'm trying to get stuff pushed through, but there's a lot of heads smashing against each other right now with brand identity and conference power and. And he sounded like a lot of it was coming from the West, to be completely honest, because they were the ones that would have to foot the biggest. They would have to foot the biggest bill, though, because if you want to play home and away Ontario and Quebec, well, we just did that and we took a bus. Are you really going to take a bus from Regina to Montreal? No, that's not acceptable.
Well, and then you're pushing it into the other thing. How the heck do you guys do school?
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah. And hey, I'm just saying.
It's very true.
That week, when I left from Montreal on Thursday, got in Thursday night, I had to MSAF something because I was just dead from that weekend. Yeah. And I mean, you can vouch. It's not like on Saturday night we went out and just took the town in our...
Well, I was just worried that anything in blue would punch me in the face for having mutton chops on the Saturday evening. But
yeah, but no, it's not like we were out. It's just so draining.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is a long experience, and you're right. It is not an easy thing to do, and I don't really see it happening anytime soon. But it is an interesting conversation. You talked about how to get school done and the toll that it takes to get you in a hotel and across the country a little bit there. I'm going to play a quick ad from Anchor Bar, our sponsor, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about that snow job, whether it matters, whether it doesn't, and are we doomed by our own situation as CIS athletes. You're listening to Marauder Radio on CFMU 93.3.
Wednesdays is Hump Day at Anchor Bar. Get over the hump and join us for our Hump Day student special. Get a pound of our world-famous buffalo wings and a pint of Molson for only $12.99. That's a pint and a pound for just $12.99. Every Wednesday, all day at Anchor Bar.
Then join us for Yuck Yuck's Amateur Nights, upstairs. Free entry with your student card. Anchor Bar and Yuck Yucks are located in downtown Hamilton, inside Jackson Square. The only place in Hamilton where you can get your wings and have your laughs for free. Yeah, that was me reading that ad. How'd I do?
Pretty good, man. I want to have my wings and laughs for free.
Yeah, you should. You should. It's a quality little event. And I'll tell you what game you can watch at Anchor Bar at the end of the show, so stick around for that. The question before I left you on that break was kind of doomed by our own situation. The Montreal snow thing, I'm going to be honest with you, as a player, does not matter to me. As somebody who covers the games now, and who has kind of always kind of viewed myself as a journalist embedded with a team, that was not fair. It's simply put. I think that was a little bit upsetting. So, for those of you that don't know, 3 huge white tents were put on the field at Percival Molson Stadium to lay down the newly painted logos on, by the way, where they paint the logos on that field is a completely different type of turf, and it sticks up way more.
People said they were painting logos. I think they were asked or they wrote them because they didn't know there weren't logos there. There was TELUS, but there were 2 other logos removed from the field.
Really? I didn't even notice that.
That's why.
I had a lot of stuff going on.
No, but you wouldn't. It would be hard for you guys to notice. You might see the different kind of turf, but from my bird's eye view, you can see that where the tents were, was just green, a different color and a different kind of turf because they were removing whatever was at the Alouettes Stadium field.
Yeah.
Because they didn't sponsor the event, so they don't get anything.
The structures that were put down for the fake paint jobs made running pretty difficult on the field. They were very large. They got in the way pretty clearly. Made drills pretty difficult. A quote from Ben O'Connor. I don't know what's going on here. It's embarrassing. I don't think it's acceptable. If you know Ben O'Connor, that is heat. That's angry Ben. I don't know what's going on here. It's tough to get more fired up than that. But he was referring to the fact that when the team arrived, the field hadn't been cleared of snow, so our coaches actually started shoveling. Meanwhile, in the NCAA playoff, teams that make the top 4 have been given $2 million each to cover costs of travel and otherwise, which, difference of situation, again, like we just spoke about, but it is something that is very different. The changing of the venue...
You know, PTI would talk about this for 3 days.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, how could they not? Like, we just talked about UAB getting rid of their football program, and there was a bit of a national uproar about, well, why, and are they viable, and do they have the mind to sustain themselves, and how competitive have they been recently? Well, if there was a Waterloo or a York in anywhere in the American news cycle, how fast would the doors have been shut?
Yeah.
Based on recent performance. It is, and we talk about these schools as the basement dwellers, unfortunately, because there hasn't been a lot of turnover and whatnot, but the reality is that there has been little to no change, and the American news cycle picks up on things much faster and crushes things for entertainment value much faster than Canadian media does. And you're right, PTI would have absolutely destroyed.
Yeah. And even then, I mean, yeah, no, Waterloo. UAB did every CIS school that's considering closing its football team a favor.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think at the time I overstated the importance of it, partially because it was frustrating to have, to not know where to go. I wanted to talk to Montreal people. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to get to Montreal's field. I don't understand how they cite snow, but you guys just have to play on it. It just seems like it's all made up. And it is.
Yep.
Because that's what the CEO of the CIS said, which, I mean, you kind of want to talk, you want to talk Pierre down and say, okay, man, I don't know what you just said that for, but that's a communications disaster because next year, no one should follow any rules.
Yeah, no, and I'm getting to that here slowly in my methodical Marshall Ferguson way. Pierre Lafontaine that you're talking about, admitted there was no firm guidelines in place for staging the one university football game that gets nationwide attention. That allowed this whole little snow job thing to happen. Mo Khan on TSN 690 tweeted at me after I kind of mentioned it on my Twitter, and he said, guys, I did play-by-play for McGill Hockey on Thursday morning that week. Those tents were there since then. Terrible organization and preparation. I'll continue to say this. The CIS is a weak governing body that has not yet developed a sense of direction. That was Mocon from TSN 690. And there were a variety of other things that came up through the week as well. The pep rally that became during the awards ceremony, the CIS football awards, apparently it was really bad. I wasn't there. I had zero interest in being in that room. I was in the pool with my friends, getting loose and doing some aerobic stretching.
Good.
Yeah, free of gravity. It's amazing how much better you can stretch in a pool. Oh man, I forgot. I haven't been in a pool in a long time. In 2012, when the Vanier Cup was in Toronto, we were in the hotel by Tuesday evening. Yeah, that's 45 minutes from campus. And it's a complete catch-22.
Flip it. If 2011 we play this game, in 2012 we make it back, not a chance you guys leave until Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
And the experience of being with your friends in a hotel is unique and special, but the preparation aspect, and Coach P talked to me about the fact that he obviously wants us in class through the week, and he wants us to practice on our own field and to get more done. We had a practice Tuesday afternoon before we left on the bus for Montreal that was I don't want to say one of our best practices of the year, but we got a lot done. And when we got to Montreal, the circus is there and it's difficult to get things accomplished. And the catch-22 that you talk about is going to bite the CIS directly in the backside. Because you're right, nobody's going to follow us. Say it's in Winnipeg next year, and yeah, like say it's there and it's paired up with the Grey Cup again, and it's Grey Cup Festival week, and not even Manitoba makes it, but Calgary does. Calgary's not going out early. Who cares?
In 2009, Calgary spent 17 days on the road.
Yeah.
How is someone from that organization supposed to read, there are no rules, and then think, okay, then 2009 stands justly in my mind. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that. 17 days on the road. Okay. Students again. Yeah, right. That's 17 days that are a write-off.
Yeah.
And you can't be prepared for a game that way. But yeah, I think, Mocon saying a weak governing body is something like, it's close to a compliment, if you ask me. I've been around this for 3 years, closely following it. You've been around it for 5. You've been in it for 5.
Yeah.
I just mean to say that there's no rules. I know.
We're a way better team than Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're the insiders, but we're like the insiders of the insiders. Because I've played, and you've been on the sidelines and sticking a microphone in people's faces for 3 years now.
And then what you get when you're not actually talking on the record too.
Yeah, that's probably the best part of it. We're going to take another quick break here. When we come back, we're going to have something a little bit different for you. We'll have a bit of a conversation on video games. Touch on that. It was a big video game weekend, I know, for Scott.
I don't think so, but
he was throwing down. And anyways, we will be right back with that. You're listening to Marauder Radio on CFMU 93.3.